Happy Monday. The time for convening has arrived. The Senate will now come to order. At this time, I would like to ask that all unauthorized persons exit the chamber. Chair would like to recognize the senator from the 53rd District. It's been too long.
Mr. President, it has, and good morning to you and as members of the state Senate that are eager to work for the people of Georgia. A moment in time, on this date in 1785, University of Georgia became the first state to charter, or Georgia became the first state to charter a state university, which is now the University of Georgia. Also, in 1968 on this date, Otis Redding was sitting on the dock of the bay with that soon-to-be-a-hit song. And the senator from the 8th, who's not here, from Valdosta, told me it is Chocolate Cake Day. The journal's been read and found to be correct.
Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? Hearing none, the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills or resolutions introduced, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. Mr. Secretary, first reading of Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Bill 282 by Senator Beach of the 21st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 2 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to the university system of Georgia, so as to provide that designated research universities shall ensure...
Higher ed.
Senate Bill 286 by Senator Anderson of the 43rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 83201 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, Article 1 of Chapter 1 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, and Chapter 1 of Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to definitions relative to fair housing, general provisions regarding education, and general
Insurance and labor.
Senate Bill 287 by Senator Jones of the 22nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 17 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to limitations on prosecution, so as to revise the statute of limitations on the offenses of rape, aggravated sodomy,
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 301 by Senators Tillery of the 19th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 6 of Title 42 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to general provisions regarding detainers, so as to revise temporary custody of provisions of inmates.
Public safety.
Senate Bill 302 by Senator Albers of the 56th and others, a bill to be titled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 5 of Title 28 of Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to fiscal bills generally, so as to provide for independent economic analyses to be procured by the Office of Planning and Budget.
Finance.
Senate Bill 303 by Senator Watson of the 1st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 24 of Title 33 of Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to insurance generally, so as to provide for greater transparency of prices for non-emergency health care services.
Insurance and labor.
Senate Bill 304 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a bill to be entitled an act to create a board of elections and registration for White County to provide for related matters.
State and local government.
Senate Bill 305 by Senator C of the 34th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 5 of Article 4 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to Brady law and regulations, so as to require individual registration and license for the purchase of assault weapons and ammunition, provide for
Judiciary.
definitions. Senate Bill 306 by Senator C of the 34th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 44 of Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to speech, language, pathologists, and audiologists, so as to revise licensing. Senate Resolution 538 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others, a resolution condemning the Congress of the United States for pursuing impeachment proceedings against President Donald J. Trump and for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 554 by Senator Unterman of the 45th, a resolution supporting the rights of the people of Iran to protest the hostile actions of the Iranian regime without subjection to violent retaliation or retribution from their government and the efforts of the Iranian people to bring effective democracy to the nation and for other purposes.
Rules.
Senate Resolution 574 by Senator Watson of the 1st, a resolution urging the Georgia Department of Transportation to complete the widening of Highway 80, State Road 26, and the replacing of Bull River and Lazaretto Creek bridges and for other purposes.
Transportation.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Secretary will now read reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Higher Education has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 444, due passed by substitute, respectfully submitted by Senator Tippins of the 37th District Chair. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Forgot to push the button. It's now time for a morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Chair recognizes the senator from the 40th.
Good morning, Mr. President. I rise to ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 39th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 39th is excused. Are there any additional motions to excuse? All right, the secretary will call the roll of senators. Signify your presence by voting the yea switch. The secretary will unlock the machine. All right, it's now time for a morning devotional. I'd ask that all senators please take your seats and cease all audible conversations. I would ask that the doorkeeper secure the chamber at this time. And the chair would like to recognize our good friend, the senator from the 32nd, to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and to introduce our chaplain of the day.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Colleagues and guests, I'm pleased to introduce to you Rabbi Peter Berg. Today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and you will hear more about that later this morning. Although I am personally a member of East Cobb United Methodist Church, there are many synagogues and Jewish people in District 32 and throughout the state of Georgia. I think you would all agree that people of all faiths need to be working together to meet the challenges of our times. Peter Berg is the senior rabbi of the Temple, the Hebrew Benevolent Congregation. The Temple is Atlanta's oldest and largest synagogue, founded in 1867. Rabbi Berg serves on many community boards, including, but not limited to, the Anti-Defamation League, the Georgia Early Education Alliance for Ready Students, and they're actually here today with Strolling Thunder. You may see some babies and little kids out there today. The Georgia Holocaust Commission, and many others. He's also immediate past president of the Atlanta Rabbinical Association. Rabbi Berg holds a certificate in chemical dependency and spiritual counseling and is a trained disaster, fire, and police chaplain, currently serving as a chaplain for the Georgia State Patrol. Rabbi Berg was named by Newsweek and the Daily Beast as one of the most influential rabbis in the United States, and by Georgia Trend as one of the top 100 most influential Georgians, and by Atlanta Magazine as one of Atlanta's most powerful leaders. Rabbi Berg lives in Atlanta with his wife Karen and 3 children, Matan, Noah, and Leor. Please give a warm Senate welcome to Rabbi Berg.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator Kirkpatrick, for the invitation to be with each of you today. Honorable Senators, Consul General Anat Sultan Dadon of the State of Israel, and distinguished guests. I'm pleased to be here today as a rabbi of the Temple, Georgia's largest and Atlanta's oldest synagogue, and with my colleagues from the Georgia Commission on the Holocaust on this important day of remembrance, as we unveil and dedicate today panels that commemorate the 75th anniversary of the liberation at Auschwitz. Auschwitz was a network of concentration camps built and operated in occupied Poland by Nazi Germany during the Second World War. Auschwitz I and nearby Auschwitz II-Birkenau were extermination camps where an estimated 1.1 million people, mostly Jews from across Europe, were killed in gas chambers, or starved, or forced labor, or filled with disease and medical experimentation. Genocidal regimes throughout history have deliberately fractured societies by marginalizing certain groups. And so now, more than ever before, we need to stand together with others in our state in order to stop division and the spread of hatred in our society. Given the acts of anti-Semitism that we see all about us, along with racism and homophobia, all forms of xenophobia and hatred, the panels that we are dedicating today are more important now than in recent memory. For we are all brothers and sisters. We all have different religions and different political ideologies, but we share similar hopes for our state, which calls for justice and compassion and peace. The world is a diverse place, and the lessons of both religion and politics must be articulated in ways that are acceptable to a diverse population. Because it is possible, very possible, that God could speak Arabic on Fridays, Hebrew on Saturdays, and Latin on Sundays. And I'd like to suggest that we see the differences among people as nothing short of a miracle of creation. The only way to truly respect and love one another is to recognize the uniqueness of each person. And the world is better because of our differences. Positive energy comes from members of the community who sometimes disagree with us, yet still love and respect each other. And because we are privileged to live in this great American democracy and the extraordinary state of Georgia, which is dependent upon strong communities of faith and a representative government, we must learn how to speak with one another. All world religions pray for peace. All governmental entities strive for justice. Yet fervor produces the worst in zealotry and in violence. How can we channel the passion and persistence that religious faith and government can summon? How can we utilize the ability of religion and government to contextualize the big issues in the most universal of terms? That is the great task that lies before us, to engage in dialogue without unleashing intolerance and self-righteousness. The challenge of American democracy is to fashion a way that incompatible faith and political assertions can still speak with each other and still learn from each other. We don't have to ignore our differences to live with each other. And when we speak to our neighbors of different faiths and different ideologies, what we need most is not authority, but reasoning. A dialogue that focuses not on quotations, but on common ground. Founded on deeply religious principles, our country is an experiment in progress. And the hypothesis that we test is that diverse populations can come together in a shared passion for liberty and in celebration of our differences to accomplish truly great things. Both religion and government continue to play an essential role, and it is the logical grounding for our democracy to learn to speak with each other in ways that we can really hear, in words that allow for learning and growth and even disagreement. That task is, in no small part, the last greatest hope of our humanity. Seated together today as our ancestors did before us, we face an uncertain future, unsure of what challenge will face us over the next hill and the next mountain. But I'd like to think that, like them, we don't face the steep climb in despair, resigned to a terrible fate, nor with blind uncertainty. Rather, we face that mountain over which lies the work we do together, with hope renewed, resolved to draw upon our faith in God and humanity to create a world that is filled with peace and joy and wisdom. And so this prayer. Eternal God, you ennoble our lives by empowering us to do your work on earth in creating a world of justice. May your name be invoked only to inspire and unify our state, but never to divide it. We ask your blessing upon the leaders of our state and our nation. May our honorable elected senators lead us wisely and with civility, working together for our common good. Guide them that they may ever be champions of justice. These things we ask in your name, O God, until the radiance of peace and righteousness for all of God's children shines to the ends of the earth. And along the way, if we are weary, give us strength. If we are discouraged, give us hope. If we have forgotten how to make a difference, remind us. If we have been careless of time, forgive us. And if our hearts are chilled by indifference, warm them. May we be inspired not only by the acts of the noble women and men who have preceded us, but by the God of this universe who wants all of us to live in peace. Amen.
At this time, we'd like to introduce our Doctor of the Day here in the Senate chambers. And I'd like to call on the Senator from the 6th to introduce the Doctor of the Day.
Thank you. I am honored to introduce Dr. Scott Swayze. Dr. Swayze is a member and the former president of Pinnacle Orthopedics. He specializes in general orthopedics, total joint replacement, and sports medicine. Dr. Swayze received his BS in biomedical engineering from Vanderbilt University and his medical degree from the University of Mississippi. He completed his orthopedic surgical residency at Emory University-related hospitals. He is a member of the WellStar Board of Trustees and a member of several local, state, and national orthopedic associations. He has also been the team physician for many local schools and sporting events. Dr. Swayze and his wife, Carol, live in Atlanta in the best Senate district in the state, number 6. Join me in welcoming Dr. Swayze.
Thank you, Senator Jordan. It's an honor to be here today to serve y'all. If y'all need us, you know where to find us in the medical aid station. As a patient and as a physician and as a board member, healthcare in Atlanta, in Georgia rather, is a challenge, and we certainly appreciate all y'all do in helping Georgians get access to affordable health care. Thank you.
Okay, which one are we up? Do we have any unanimous consents? The chair hears none. We've got some very special guests with us here today, and I'd like to call on the senator from the 12th to introduce her special guest of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is indeed an honor. It is an honor to introduce individuals that have come to the Capitol from so far away. This is our Southwest Georgia Day here at the Capitol, and we have some of the best representatives in the country that have come to share this day with you, with me, and to bring a little bit of cheer and a little bit of joy and appreciation to this body. President Marion Frederick of Albany State University, along with A.L. Fleming, her vice president or president of institutional advancement, Kara, and just raise your hand so they'll know you. Kara Tafoya, representing Andrew College of Cuthbert, Georgia. Shanae Motley of United Way. Lynn Larson of Georgia Youth Science and Technology Centers. We also have the Morehouse School of Medicine, and they are located in the lobby, and some are in the gallery. Doherty High School, I am so proud that you're here. They will be performing at noon today, as well as Lamar Reese Elementary School, and they will also perform during the noon hour. At this time, I would like to ask President Frederick to come forward and address this body. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate it. Good morning to everyone, especially to our high school students up in the balcony. From Albany State University, we Thank you for the invitation to be on the floor. Thank you for all of the support that you have sent towards Albany State and our community in Southwest Georgia over the last several years, many years. We appreciate you and all the work that you do, and we certainly look forward to all the continued support that you will send towards Albany State as well as Southwest Georgia. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This time we've got another special set of special guests. I'd like to call on the senator from the 25th to introduce his special guest of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members of the Senate. If this group looks familiar to you, there's a good reason for that, because this is the Gatewood football team who won yet again another state title. We celebrated their victory last year, and now this year again. This is a small private school out of Edenton, Georgia, where they're not only great in academics, they're stellar in athletics as well. These young men, like I said, have won their second state title in 2 years, and also some of them are members of their six-time shotgun state championship team that we'll honor later this year as well. But today I'd like to welcome Coach Ratliff, and for him to say a few words to the body, and I'd like y'all to give him a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Jones. I appreciate you guys having us again this year. We had an outstanding season, and just on behalf of my school, my community at Edenton, I want to say thank you for recognizing us. I have a couple of people here with me. First of all, my assistant head coach, Tyler Van Duzen. Our senior captains, Weston Wallace, Walt Jarrett, Cole Campbell, and James Williamson. And again, like I said, on behalf of our school and my staff and our administration, thank you for having us, and appreciate y'all looking after us today. Thanks.
I'd like to introduce our next set of special guests, and I'd like to call on the senator from the 33rd to do so.
Good morning, fellow senators, colleagues, friends, and y'all. Today, I am here recognizing and commending Bishop Reginald Jackson and the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Bishop Reginald Jackson has demonstrated his commitment to teaching the gospel, witnessing Christ through word and deed, and addressing the physical, psychological, and intellectual spiritual needs of others. He is a man after God's own heart with the wisdom of Solomon. After listening to one of his sermons, I finally realized that God doesn't grade on the curve, but he grades on the cross. I wish I would remember that when I was in grad school. I now introduce to you Bishop Reginald Jackson.
President Duncan and members of the Senate, thank you for this opportunity. Today is AME Day still here at the State House, and we ask members of the more than 500 AME churches in Georgia to meet us at the State House to have an opportunity to study, to learn, and to interact with the senators and members of the legislature. The AME Church is the first Protestant denomination formed on American soil, has a history and legacy of education and social justice. We hear Jesus declare, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." This is what we are committed to, God's will being done on earth. And so we come as good citizens of the state of Georgia to support you and also to influence you as you go about service to the state and its citizens. Let me put a plug in as I stand before the Senate. There's a very important piece of legislation we hope you will support, a hate crimes law. Georgia is one of only 4 states that does not have a hate crimes law, and I'm hoping you will join with the House in making it clear that Georgia does not condone hatred. I'm happy to have all of the AMEs who are up in the gallery who have come to stand with us today. Y'all just wave your hands. All right, thank you so much again. Thank you for this opportunity. Look forward to working with you. If there's anything that I can do with our more than 500 churches and thousands of members to help you make Georgia a better place, please do not hesitate to ask. Thank you again for this opportunity. And again, pass the hate crimes law. Thank you so much. Thank you again.
Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Chair recognizes the senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I rise on a somber occasion to ask this body for a moment of silence. On Thursday morning, Long County Deputy Sheldon Gordon Whitman passed away in the line of duty in a high-speed chase in Long County. He had just recently become a deputy there. He spent most of his time as a deputy with the Chatham County Department before he came over. He leaves behind a wife of 19 years, Miss Alyssa Ann, and 3 sons, Aaron, Arion, and Shiloh. If it's appropriate, Mr. President, I'd like to ask this body for a moment of silence in his remembrance and his honor to our state.
Please rise for a moment of silence.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Chair would like to recognize the senator from the 38th for a point of personal privilege.
Good morning, colleagues. I hope everybody had a good week off, that those of you who were not in here for budget. On the 3rd day of session, I had to take my mother to the doctor, and her doctor determined at that point that she needed to go immediately. We go to Emory. We were at the clinic, go immediately across the street to the hospital. She spent from the 15th of January to last Saturday at Emory University Hospital. And so I found it very interesting that when I'm trying to get her, she's kind of gone through this, 5 years ago, which was time for her to go to rehabilitation for physical therapy, that the United Healthcare made a decision, an insurance company makes a decision that treatment is not consistent with published clinic notes/evidence. Her doctor said she needed to go. Her physical therapist said she needed to go. Her occupational therapist said she needed to go. All it was going to be was 1 week. So my mother is at home today while I'm fighting this fight from a healthcare facility, United Healthcare, making a decision that is that she should not go. She will go. I can pay for it if I have to. But the whole thing is no insurance company needs to be doing a cookie cutter thing on our constituents to say you cannot go when you need help. 1 week is all she needed. I knew what she needed from what happened before. We already had stuff set up for next week. So yes, I want United Healthcare and any other insurance company that decides that they want to make a cookie cutter decision on a person when your doctor said they need to go, your physical therapist, your occupational therapist, and any other health professional makes a decision that you need to go in for more help, to say you can't get it. So I do appreciate you all listening to me this morning, because I do know it affects just more than me in this body. It probably affects a lot of us. My mother's 94 years old. She gets around very well. She has good mind. She's having a hard time walking right now. That's why she needs to go to physical therapy. But she does well. And I know a lot of you have met her and you know her. But this is ridiculous. And so I just wanted to bring it out. And I want United Healthcare, who's out in the hall someplace, and anybody else, to understand you don't make these kind of decisions. You don't overrule her health professionals. I thank you, sir, so very much for listening.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to talk about an issue that we seem to continue to bring back every year. See, recently I read the statement, "It's not who you know or what you know, it's what you know about who you know." See, we're right back here again talking about gambling and casinos. This time, those that are pushing for it, and if you don't know who they are, just look at the disclosures. They publicly state that it will help with a proposed budget shortfall. Well, there's a new angle for us. You also state that the people should have a right to vote on it. Okay, so let me get this right. You think that bringing a casino into our state, along with the devastating social impact, is somehow going to increase our budget? How about the human trafficking that goes along with that? What's that impact? I know this is no revelation for some of us, but 7 years in a row, we're the #1 place to do business. Oh, and we've done it without a casino. Are you truly ignorant to the increased costs that also come with gambling establishment? You openly state that people have a right to vote on it. Well, if that's the case, then let's just eliminate the General Assembly. Since you're attempting to help the budget, that'll help the budget, and allow every bill to go as California straight through a referendum for the people to vote on it. That way the people can vote on everything, and maybe your decision to have a selective representative government could come to fruition. And with that, I yield the well, Mr. President.
Before the chair recognizes the senator from the 45th, I want to make sure everybody in this body knows that it is her birthday. So with that, I'd like to recognize a senator from the 45th for a point of personal. Chair recognizes a senator from the 9th.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we ever were to suspend the rules for singing, I know that the senator from the 43rd would do a mighty fine job of singing to us in this body from her performance this morning at the GMA breakfast.
I believe the gentleman knows what he speaks. The chair recognizes the senator from the 45th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is a great day in Georgia, and welcome back from the weekend. We're going to have a great week, I'm sure. I think this will be our first 5-day week, and I look forward to serving with you. Today is a very special day. It's always a special day when we're in session, but especially today because we have over 500 municipalities, mayors, and city councils that we all represent, and they're out there roaming in the halls and lobbying, and I understand they had a great breakfast, and also yesterday when they convened downtown. We look forward to listening to them and helping them. Being a former mayor, I understand the importance of local government. It truly is where the rubber meets the road. The reason I come to the well today is to acknowledge some very, very special guests. Throughout the year, I work with the cities, and in Gwinnett County, we have over 15 municipalities. And fortunately, some of them participate in the Youth Council. These cities have youth that serve throughout the year, and I help mentor them. It's my honor and privilege. As a matter of fact, they're going to be back at the Capitol tomorrow to testify in regulated industries on a very important bill. So I'd like to welcome the City of Sugar Hill Youth Council. If you could please stand up and y'all give them a round of applause. These are the cream of the crop, and it's my honor and privilege to work with some of them for several years until they graduate from high school. I look forward to a new batch, and thank you very much for coming down, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much, and I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today on an important topic we've talked a great deal about and have done work on over the years, and I'm heartened by all of that good work because it deserves attention. I've heard from different communities and commissions that met over our off-season to come up with several pieces of legislation tackling human trafficking, which is a scourge on our state. I'm excited to see the bills put forward by the First Lady and others, and I'm here to share with you the product of my team's work with advocates and experts on this same subject over this off-season, to include former ambassador to President Obama on sex trafficking and human trafficking, Ambassador Susan Coppage Amato. And I know y'all will be happy to hear she was a former federal prosecutor with me in the U.S. Attorney's Office. As an assistant United States attorney in this district, I've prosecuted sex traffickers, child predators. Through these experiences, I learned that the more tools a prosecutor has, the easier it is to take the worst of the worst off of our streets and to stop having our children victimized. There are 3 bills I'm going to be bringing forward, and I mention them today because I would love to have bipartisan support, and I know I've been speaking to some of you in the hallways about this. My first bill would extend the statute of limitations for civil actions to be brought against businesses who allow and encourage human trafficking and sex trafficking in their business. It would extend the statute of limitations to 10 years. My second bill would ensure survivors of trafficking can restrict their court records if convicted of nonviolent offenses, so that we are not punishing people for coming forward to report these crimes. Now, my third bill came to my attention through the Burt Show, and some of you may listen to that show. And apparently there is a gap in the law that does not allow women to pump at work during breaks. particularly teachers, and it is a teacher who brought this forward in that she was not allowed to pump at work. As a breastfeeding mother, I understand the importance of being able to pump to feed your child. And many, many women in this state and in this country breastfeed, and it's becoming more and more popular and common every day. And we want to be able to allow women to do this in a safe and effective manner and without fear of retaliation. So that is the third bill that will be coming forward. I find it amazing that you can get a smoke break at work, but you can't get a pump break at work. So please join me in making these bipartisan bills. And I also want to thank the 3 senators who originally brought forth this bill many years ago with respect to women being able to pump at work, and that is the senators, and I can't say their names, so I have to say their numbers, the senators from the 35th and others that I want to make sure they will be co-sponsors on the bill as well. And you are all welcome to join in these 3 bills. Please just come see me and we'll make sure you get signed on. Thank you so much. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. I rise on behalf of one of my 3 grandsons who was just devastated at the loss of Kobe Bryant on yesterday. His last game for his season in basketball was Saturday, and my husband and I and the rest of the family had gone down to support him. And because he is a young person that's playing ball and look up to ball players and love the sport, I just thought I would ask for us to do a moment of silence for Kobe, who did so much for the game of basketball.
Senator has asked for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm in purple honoring that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, we have people who are walking around with red, white, and blue scarves this morning, and we were all invited to breakfast for the Georgia Municipal Association this morning. And so our mayors of the different cities that we represent and city council persons are here. So I want to welcome all of them, especially the ones from Hateville, East Point, College Park, Union City, Fairburn, Palmetto, Chattahoochee Hills, and the new city of South Fulton, and then all of Douglas County. So I had to put the 35th district in there, okay? So they were up here a few minutes ago. I think they're doing something on the House side now. But for all those who are still here, let us give them a warm welcome to the State Senate. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair would like to recognize a senator from the 32nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was supposed to be a podium presentation, but my honored guests are still in the house, and they probably are not going to make it back over here. But what I wanted to tell you all, and you've already heard about this, is that today's International Holocaust Remembrance Day and the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. The special guests that are here for the day are my senators that I work with, Senator from the 45th, who's celebrating a birthday today, by the way, and the senator from the 2nd, who is with me, a legislator on the Holocaust Commission. And the Consul General of Israel is here, along with her deputy, as well as the Director of the Holocaust Commission and the Deputy Director. What I wanted to tell you is that at 1 o'clock today, we're going to be unveiling some panels down on the first floor of the Capitol, and they're across from Office 110. They're a permanent exhibition that gives a historical perspective on the Holocaust, and they're in between the snack bar and the gift shop, so they should get a lot of traffic. In addition to that, we'll have a number of Holocaust survivors and liberators attending the unveiling ceremony. It won't take much of your time, but if you're free at 1 o'clock, I'd love for you all to stop by, and that is on the first floor of the Capitol. Thank you very much. I yield the will.
Thank you, Senator. We have no more points of personal privilege. And you've got a consent calendar of privileged resolutions. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? The chair hears none. Chair would like to recognize the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 o'clock on Tuesday, January 28, 2020.
Will the secretary read any announcements?
Rules will meet upon adjournment in 4:50 cap. Finance is canceled. Insurance and labor is canceled. Public safety has a joint meeting in 4:50 cap at 1:30 p.m. Education and youth is canceled. Health and Human Services is canceled. Judiciary will meet in 307 CLOB at 4 p.m. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Any senators wish to make an announcement? The chair recognizes the senator from the 4th for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, on your desk is a letter about the Senate Flower Fund. As you know, we've had a number of deaths affecting our body and past members and so forth. This body sends flowers and condolences to family members. It's our way of representing the Senate to that family. If you'd like to make a contribution, I'd appreciate you making that contribution and give it to the Secretary of the Senate. Thank you very much.
Any other senators wish to make an announcement? The chair sees none. The majority leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Tuesday, January 28, 2020 at 10 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it, and the Senate stands adjourned.